Joe, last thing before we get to game picks, the Texas A&M Aggies have been really doing good in the transfer portal, getting a lot of really high-quality players, a couple of former 5-stars. When you look at Texas A&M and what they've been able to do in the transfer portal, what have been your thoughts on the guys that they've been able to bring in?
Well, the biggest catalyst for us having this conversation is the commitment that they received from Casey Concepcion, who burst onto the scene as a true freshman at NC State and had a good season this past year, but a bit of an underperformance for hope that he was going to take a huge step forward because NC State was underwhelming overall offensively this year. Not a lot of consistency at quarterback. Concepcion has the goods, though. He has the goods to be one of the leading receivers in the SEC this year. He has the goods to be a top receiver in the 2025 NFL draft if he chose to declare. But overall, I am obsessed with how this receiver room looks. That Concepcion and Micah Hudson, who has a lot of talent that a lot of people have tried to poo-poo on, is still a gifted young player that can be really productive going into his sophomore season. And the last part about all this, with this completely new look offense, we know that they're going to be fine on defense, assuming that their secondary plays better. That's a whole separate issue. Marcel Reed has been getting crapped on a lot for some reason, and I don't get it. That young man was so hugely impactful for a young player in a number of important games this year. I think that the ceiling is quite high for Texas A&M, knowing that they have all these weapons.
I'm interested to find about A&M because I'm interested about them in reference to, man, that's not the style that Mike Elko wants to play. Right? Like, you're going to get in Casey Concepcion, you're going to get in Hudson. And Joe, arguably one of the biggest sleeper receivers that they went and got was the Craver kid from Mississippi State, who had some massive plays for Mississippi State a year ago. My thing is are you going to throw the ball around like that? Like, I mean, maybe you do, maybe you don't. I don't know that. But what I do know is that, look, if Micah Hudson can live up to his talent, if you know what Concepcion can give you, and along with Mario Craver and other pieces that they already have on that roster, it's a really good haul. My question, though, is are you, when it's crunch time and you're playing in a big game, are you going to throw it around like that? Well, they did against USC, but they kind of had to do that. Against USC, it was very prevalent that they needed receivers and they needed bodies and they needed some guys. So I think that's a big haul there for them. It's going to be interesting to see what it looks like with Marcel Reed going into year 2, as now they're going to be full-time starter here. I know they bring in the kid from UAB. This is Marcel Reed's team, in my humble opinion. Joe, I think the sky's the limit. They got to. Here's the thing now with A&M that's really interesting for me offensively. What are you going to guard against? Are you going to stack the box with Ruben Owen? Are you going to stack the box with Marcel Reed? Now you can't play one-on-one, man-to-man against them. You're going to have to be. Your D-line, your front. They're going to make you choose what you want to take away. So if Marcel Reed can be better as a passer going into really a year 1 for him as a starter, or continuing that year 1 as a starter, they're going to make you dictate it. So I do think that they present a lot of very dangerous things for you offensively. That would be the thing that I'm most interested and intrigued, because Ruben Owens will be back. You know, I mean, like, what happens with Le'Veon Moss? Can he be back or give you something during the season? So a lot of questions are going to be arisen by Texas A&M.
I think that was just overall, like, the biggest part about those, and to track it back to Marcel Reed, is what kind of a step does he take next year? And you also mentioned Klein, who is the offensive coordinator. We don't know what he's going to be able to do with all this receiver talent. I'm not saying that as a negative. It's he didn't have this to work with when he was leading that Kansas State team and was having the degree of production that they were having. We don't know what he could end up cooking up. Ultimately, what's going to lead to success for Texas A&M, though, this coming year, I mean, Elko freaking talked about it when they lost to USC. They got to cover. Bringing in Julian Humphrey is big. Can you crack into that potential that he has as a player coming from Georgia? But man, they need better production and quality of play from their corners, because that was a disaster at times this year.
Well, Ricks will be back, and I do think that you're right that they've been bad, and Elko called them out for not being able to run zone. But here's the thing. I'm not letting Elko off the hook on that. Stop calling zone then. You're the one that's calling it. So you go out there and you complain about the kids not being able to understand zone coverage, then stop calling zone coverage.
Well, philosophically, though, if you don't have good corners, you kind of have to call zone. It's like if you don't have the guys that can run man to man,
they don't understand what he's trying to run.
They're going to get cooked either way.
but the problem is he's complaining that they don't know how to do what he's trying to call and run what he's trying to call. You didn't say that shit against LSU. You didn't say that shit against Missouri. No, what happened is when you went out there against South Carolina and Joe, they're 1-4 and they're 1-3 in their last month, or 1-3 or 1-4 in their last 5 games.
Is that right?
Yeah, the only win that they have is against New Mexico State. November, they took a massive deep downhill turn. So it wasn't prevalent then. Now, they can't run zone. Bullshit. Then it's your fault for not being able to teach them on what they need to do. That was a BS statement now.
Yeah, you are correct, because their last games have been lost South Carolina, win over New Mexico State, lost to Auburn, lost Texas.
Same Texas A&M.
Well, okay, here's my argument though.
Did you hear me?
I heard you.
New year, same Texas A&M.
What I was trying to say though is my counter argument to that though is the most challenging receiver matchup that they saw was against. Actually, it wasn't against USC. The most challenging passing matchup that they saw was USC.
Was against Texas.
Yeah, I don't truly completely fault him for bringing that up though. I mean, if he's trying to call a scheme and he doesn't have the guys for it.
Hold on 1 second. If that's BS from you, because Marcus Freeman, when he literally came out and said we didn't know how to do certain things, you blamed him. Bro, Joe,
when did he come out and say that? What specific instance are you referencing?
We were talking about how you were mad that he's not yelling at guys on the sidelines, and then in his post game he's saying we didn't execute.
Yeah, but that's specifically on him. That is on him, not motivating guys.
Elko, you're in game 13.
Oh, come on,
Joe. Wait. He's got the same damn secondary. You're in game 13. What do you mean you don't know what to do? That's also no. He threw them under the bus.
I don't consider that throwing them under the bus. I mean, if he doesn't have the guys that can play, he didn't name names and do the crap. He didn't do what Hugh Freeze did, where he
had a brand new secondary. He brought all those guys in from the portal. So then it's on him if they didn't know what to do.
It's not like what Hugh Freeze did, where he basically said that none of the quarterbacks on the roster can play well enough, and the reason why they can't win is because the quarterbacks. His statement's not wrong. I don't think he's not at fault.
What's the difference between Elko doing it and Hugh Freeze doing it? Because you didn't like when Freeze did it either.
Because he was really directly he also did it in the middle of a season. Him doing it at the end of the year is non-consequential.
Okay, hold on. Here's a death blow. You ready? We got a photo of him at the bar with a Corona and playing poker. I don't want to hear everybody was taking this shit seriously now.
He was playing blackjack, I think. I don't think it was poker.
Why are you fighting over semantics?
Because we'll get ready for a long offseason. What do you mean? Why am I fighting over semantics? This is what we do every offseason.
Very true. Sam Mapimba is somebody else I'm watching. They did get Haynes from Colorado. They went and got 2 edge rushers as well. Going to be interesting to see how they look defensively. Some of those guys going to be out. Joe, any concern that USC was able to run the ball on them a little bit? I mean, you're talking about a team, in all fairness, you're talking about a team in USC that is very depleted. We went into the game thinking that they couldn't run the ball.
Well, I know that Scourton didn't play, but if also I'm correct, Shamar Turner also didn't play. Like, they were down.
Three USC offensive linemen hit the portal.
Yeah, but like
starters. Both
they were equally depleted.
Top 2 running backs were not there.
Also, wait, hold on a second. 105 rushing yards isn't running all over them, though.
Joe, they had 3 starting new offensive linemen. Both of their top running backs were out. The simple fact they cracked 100.
I think you're being a little nitpicky here.
Okay. Well,
105 rushing yards?
Well, all I know is when USC lined up for 3rd and 3, they were able to push Texas A&M around to get a first down and win the football game. That's what I know.
I'm not like what I was saying in reference to that is like I'm not truly surprised that situations like that would happen.
Elko homers.
I'm not an Elko homer. They were without
you because he was your DC.
That has nothing to do with it. They were without their best run defending defensive lineman. Like what if first round picks? Possible
USC was out their best couple of receivers. I mean, no one was more depleted in that game than USC was. No one.
You're right. Credit to USC for playing as well as they did.
No. Spare me.
BetOnline remains your top spot for all of your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for 50% off your first deposit. That is a 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts.